going to show a couple different simple techniques that you could do, controlling techniques once you get them to the ground. So whatever entry you do, and you get him down to the ground, and how he lands on the ground is going to determine what you're going to do. So we're just going to get him from, a simple technique. We take him down, turn this way. If he's laying on the ground and I'm more standing up, some of the simple things you want to do is just stand on something. Again, if his hand is out, I could stand on that. If he rolled away, I could stand on his ankle here. I can reach up and go towards his knee. I don't want to step over him where I can get kicked or punched, and I don't want to be leaning over where he can pull me over either. So simple things, I get him down, he hits the ground, and if I don't want to stay with him and that hand's on the ground, again, just standing on it, again, I could just drop my knee on it. Same thing over on the ankle. I can roll it. I can just drop my knee nice and hard, and you can always kick. Again, if you're going to kick somebody on the ground as a type of control, avoiding the head. If you're going to control somebody, you can work the throat. You can kneel across the chin, putting your shin across his jaw, turning his body. Again, I could check some of his weapons. I want to avoid being as close to them as possible. If I do kneel down and I get him where I have control of the arm, but he's on his back, there's a couple ways that I can get him to move a little bit. First one is if his palm is up, I can reach towards the pinky. As I start to twist, I can get him to roll to his side. Again, I can keep rolling him to where he gets to his belly, or I can just get him sideways. So this way, just 10. I would rather him be on his side, where I'm taking at least two of those weapons away, and it's still kind of hard for him to hit with any of those, and if I have control of this, as opposed to controlling him here, where he can punch, kick with a bunch more weapons, as well as he can grab and do things like that. So if I want to move him, I can twist towards his head, rotating, using that the lock itself to make him move, instead of trying to just force him by pushing. I want to use the rotation of the wrist to get him to roll. I can also go in the opposite direction, where I can twist to get that shoulder to lock. And I want to focus on using the elbow and the wrist. I can push and roll, trying to drive this shoulder down to the ground. Again, you always have fingers that you can work as well, but that's a good way to get him to move over on his side. Again, if I didn't kneel down yet, I can work the fingers by pulling back. As I start to pull back, I can rotate in to get him to move over on his side. I can also use my knee to the back of the arm. I can kick to the back of the arm, or if I'm kneeling down, I can work the fingers and then knee with my leg to his body to get him to roll over on his side. Once we get him on the side, now we can start doing some attacking some different joints. So if I have him on his side already, however I got him, again, if his elbow or his arm is in this type of position here, or if it's in this type of position here, or if it's straight, is going to give me different options. And the joints that we have to affect, again, fingers, wrist, elbow, and shoulder. Again, super simple ones that we can do is once I get him down to the ground, I can do our gooseneck lock, where I reach underneath his elbow, pinning it to my body, and I'm grabbing below the knuckle line towards the wrist, and I could pull up. I don't want to pull it into me this way. I want to use gravity to pull up towards my chin. Again, using my knee as pressure to keep him from moving. If I just do this in this position, as I lift up, he could start coming up to get away from the pressure. So I want to put my knee across his chin or on his jaw, putting all that pressure. So I'm pushing and pulling in two opposite directions to keep him from moving. Again, a lot of times when people don't like this, they'll try to straighten out their arm. When he does, I can still use my same position with my leg to work the elbow joint across my hip. So I can tuck it underneath my armpit and do it in this position. You can use it with your hand. I can stretch it out here. Now with this, because I have this here, a lot of times this part starts to move. So you can switch it, put your knee and pull it across your body. I can step over his head, pick up your chin, and I could lock it across my body in this type of position, and then you still have your hands free for things like that, and you could be choking the neck. So if I start to lock it in this direction, he doesn't like that. He's going to start to pull it back down again. So now I'm just going to rotate and work the shoulder. But I'm going to take my right hand is going to kind of cinch down underneath. So I'm trying to put his wrist underneath my armpit, and I'm going to hook my arm by his elbow, and I'm just going to start to twist in this direction. Now you can see, because I didn't lock him down, he starts to pivot to get away from it. So this is where I like to put that pressure on that head. I start to lock it here. You could also do it like a figure 4 shoulder lock in this position. And again, you could scoop the arm or the foot around the neck, and I can tighten it up really good from here. So simple. As soon as you get him down, again, I can work the fingers first, grabbing them any way I want. I can fold it, getting the wrist lock, pulling it up into me. I can stretch it across my hip for the elbow lock. I can twist it for the shoulder in this direction, or I can twist it in the shoulder for this direction. And again, staying up top with the pressure on his head. Again, driving all my weight into my shin bone into his head, pushing it into the ground to keep him from wanting to move. That alone can cause a lot of pressure. Another one that you can do once you get him from on his side is I can step over with my opposite leg. So I can put my knee across his belly here, and now I can use that same elbow lock in this position. I can go from the elbow up to the fingers and start to work the finger locks from here. I can get my gooseneck lock in this position here, and I can also step over across the hip. So if I lock it here, where I bring his arm up, again, tucking it underneath the armpit, hooking by his elbow, starting to twist. I don't want him to be able to roll over unless that's my goal, is to get him to roll. So by keeping my hip here, or my foot here, I prevent him from being able to roll. If I wanted him to roll, I can let my foot slide as I roll him completely over onto his belly here, and now I can work the wrist lock here. You can get your arm out of there, where I can push down on top, working that lock from that position. If I'm on top of him in this position, I could go for the mount, and I could do things from here, but I don't want to stay here for too long. But if I am here, he's only got a couple options of how he can get up. If I'm focusing on this one, he's going to try to scoop this arm out to push himself up. As he goes to push that arm up, I can snake it from underneath and get control over that. Once I get that one, I can work both locks together, or I can just focus on controlling him from this position. A lot of times when you get somebody on their belly, they're going to want to push up with that hand, and you could always scoop it out of there with your arm or with your leg. So I get him down, he's on his side. Again, I can do lots of different positions that I can do. I'm just going to kneel down, fold it in, wrist lock from this position. I could stretch it across my hip on this side. I could stretch it across my hip on the other side. I could bend the elbow. Now I'm working the shoulder. I could step over and work the shoulder. I could roll it the other direction for a figure 4 shoulder lock. I could step over with my leg here and put pressure, or I can scoop my leg around his head again, locking up that shoulder from here. Again, all the options are the same that we did before. And again, what I like to do is, if I have control and I have to disengage, I don't want to just let go and try to get out of there quick. I try to hold on to a finger if I can, control him, keep my pressure until I'm pretty far away that I can get up. Because I don't want to rely on being all tangled up and all of a sudden I go, okay, 1, 2, 3, go. I have to get out of there quicker than he can try to grab me. And that's why we try not to step over them as much as possible. I don't want to step over him in this position where he could grab my leg, take me down. I want to be able to get away quick. If my goal isn't to control him, my goal is to get out of there. So once I get him to the ground, being on my side or being on his side and being behind him, I can just, push him over for a split second, create my space, and get out of there quicker. And he has to get up, look, try to find me, as opposed to if he's staring at me and I'm doing something. Again, he could be trying to strike me already. He could be trying to already starting to get up, and now he's already halfway on me by the time I can get out of there. If I have control of him when I take him down, I want to stay tight and move with him and get my locks and my controls right from here, instead of letting him hit the ground first, and then now I have to close that gap. Try to stay with him as best as you can so that you could control.